if you wanted to learn about the theory and mechanism behind Steve Jobs' reality distortion field, you could do a number of things. You could read a few mainstream books on the idea. You could read The Secret, learn how to harness the power of the universe. You could read Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind and learn how to harness the power of your subconscious mind, or Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking. That title's clear enough. And if that wasn't enough, you could get into some more technical books. NLP, The New Art and Science of Getting What You Want. My Method, Emil Kuhl, arguably the forefather of affirmation and self-hypnosis, or one of his colleagues, suggestion and auto-suggestion. Alternatively, if you haven't got time for all that reading, you can just keep watching this video to the end and understand the science, theory and mechanism behind Steve Jobs' amazing reality distortion field. So for those of you who might have read Walter Isaacson's amazing book on Steve Jobs, or seen one of the many films and portrayals of his life, you would have realized that he was very charismatic. He had a really strong and unshakable will, and he was able to bend and manipulate the facts of reality to suit his purposes. And that was why he was able to create such an amazing company as Apple Computer and the innovations that they brought with them. He had the attitude that he could do anything, that nothing was out of the limits of what he could achieve, and that really allowed him to innovate so many great products and to become the CEO of arguably one of the most successful companies ever to grace the face of the earth. Not only was Steve Jobs an innovator himself, he had the ability to make his staff and managers believe that they could achieve the impossible. There's a great example from the book that I referenced to. It's amazing. Walter Isaacson, Steve Jobs let him into his life and really just let him in and was very open with him about everything. And there's when it came to creating the iPhone, there's an amazing story about Wendell Weeks, who was the CEO of Gorilla Glass, or maybe the main technician of Gorilla Glass, and Steve Jobs went to see him about the glass, and Steve Jobs tried to educate Weeks about the chemistry behind glass, and he said, sit down, let me give you a lesson about glass. And by doing that, he turned Steve Jobs around, and he decided that yes, this is the product I want as the screen of the iPhone. He says to him, I want as much Gorilla Glass as you can make in 6 months. To which Weeks responds, that's impossible. We can't do it. None of our plants are currently manufacturing the glass. And when he said this to Steve Jobs, Steve went somber and quiet, and he just looked at him and said, don't be afraid. Imagine, I'm not sure that they'd met before, this high CEO. Don't be afraid. And this is the power of Steve Jobs' reality distortion field. He made Wendell Weeks believe that he could do it. And he says to him on part, and he says, yes, you can do it. You've just got to get your head around it. And I think they fulfilled the quota of glass that was needed within 4 months. And this just shows, it's a great story. I thought I'd share this one rather than any of the others, because it just really shows how Steve Jobs' unshakable faith and belief would radiate into the people that came in contact with him. In his presence, reality became malleable. It wasn't firm and fixed like it might be for us, that we think, oh, this is how it is, that's how it is. For Steve Jobs, he could twist and shape it and make it into whatever he needed it to be to achieve his goal. If reality as it was did not comport with his will, he'd just ignore it and move on, and then start molding and shaping over there to make it fit the reality that he wanted. Another really good example, if you needed another one after the Wendell Weeks and Gorilla Glass episode, a really great popular way to see this in action is in the Star Wars franchise, the Jedi Master, the masters of their mind, and it's a scene of Obi-Wan Kenobi with Luke Skywalker where he hypnotizes the stormtroopers.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
This technique exists in NLP, and you can just imagine Steve Jobs doing it to Wendell Weeks. You can do it. Just get your mind around it. And then he's like, what's going on? And he goes away and achieves what he said was impossible. So what can we learn from this, from Steve Jobs's reality distortion field? Well, there's two things that we need to take away from it. The first is to grow and develop our inner Steve Jobs. And the second is to create a mind and sharpen our mind so that it's as sharp as a Jedi Master. And what we believe and can see, we're able to make and bring it into reality.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
What Steve Jobs would do and what we need to do in our own lives is to stay motivated, to stay focused and progressing on the goal that we have in mind. And Steve Jobs was amazing at it. He would almost ignore the small details and just focus on the big picture. Whereas for some people, they get bogged down in the small details. And it's like, I can't do it because of this, or it won't happen because of that. And just focusing on all the small details and getting bogged down by the improbable nature of what their goals are. Whereas Steve Jobs would at times he'd just ignore the details. If someone said, oh, this, he'd be like, I ain't got time for the small details. I've got my big dreams. I've got my big goals that I need to get to. And I can't achieve them if I spend time focusing on the small details. So if you've got something that you want to achieve and it's looking highly improbable at the moment, just keep moving forward, keeping your eyes on that goal, that dream, and make things happen. Put things into place to propel you closer to that goal. By expecting greatness to come in our own lives, we can achieve greatness. Whereas if we expect failure and disappointment by focusing on all the things that could go wrong and how difficult it might be, then of course that's what we're going to bring into our life. It's like what I was talking about, our life is shaped by our mind in the last video that I did. The fact that Steve Jobs' mind was so powerful and he had such a strong willpower and wasn't willing to be manipulated and set back by the small details. His life was shaped by his mind. He believed that he could do these amazing things. And so, as you know, if you've got an Apple iPhone or a MacBook, he achieved amazing things. And so to be a true visionary like Steve Jobs was, you've got to be willing at times to overreach. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing for people to say, you're dreaming, you're a dreamer. You've got to be willing to trip up and land on your face and then just get right back up and say, oh, okay, that didn't work. What can I do to change things, to allow me to take a step forward? Innovation requires a reality distortion field. So if you want to innovate your life, if you want to make it better, you need to distort your current reality and manipulate it, mold it, slowly and steadily into the creation that you want to live. So, generate your own reality distortion field. Read Walter Isaacson's book on Steve Jobs and see how he was able to do amazing things because of his mind and because he didn't focus on the small details, and innovate and create the life that you want. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, definitely subscribe if you want more content like this and videos and tips and tricks to keep generating your inner Steve Jobs so that you can distort reality and achieve amazing things. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.